Hi, everybody. Good morning and welcome to the business-focused podcast that is Revitalise Meets. And today, I've got the great pleasure this morning to be offering you all on the YouTube channel for Revitalise Networking and on live on LinkedIn is a special edition. A great opportunity for me to bring along a group of individuals, a group of business professionals who have joined together to really bring all their superpowers together, to really help their business connections, to help individuals with three key components as part of the Elevate 360 coaching program. And I've got the great pleasure to be welcoming along today Steve Lees from the Business Sat Nav, which is Coach for Growth. We've got Tony Gordon from Changing Your Mind Limited, and we've got the one and only Suzanne McDonald from Suze McDonald Wellbeing coming along to join me today to share with you all the wonderful world and the actual setup of this fabulous cohort, which is Elevate 360. Welcome, everybody. How are you all today?
Good morning. Very good, thank you.
Morning. Good, thank you.
Thank you very much. If anyone's watching and listening to this just now, if you want to drop in any questions, you can do that on LinkedIn and you can add it to the YouTube comments as well. So please feel free to add any comments or questions that you may have, and it'll drop into my chat area and I can respond that to the team as well today. So first of all, I've known you all for quite a while now, and it's extremely exciting that you've now pulled together this wonderful opportunity, this partnership, this cohort. Who would like to start just by sharing, how did this cohort all come about? How did this coaching program fizzle, develop, and was created?
Should I take that one? So I'm the newbie here from a Revitalise aspect. So we effectively all met via the Revitalise Business Club. And when I joined 6 months ago, I did a bit of a tour around all of the local branches around Scotland, and I was lucky enough to meet these other two wonderful people. And I know that they'd had some previous conversations, and ultimately, what we all have a business that likes to help other businesses establish, grow, and develop, but we do things very differently. We have very different skill sets about what makes business successful, and I think we all probably just had a little bit of a light bulb moment a little while ago to say, well, actually, if you combine each of our three skills and we can try and package that up in a way that allows us to introduce it to businesses that are perhaps, relatively new or relatively small, who need help and guidance and experience, but perhaps don't necessarily have the resources to be able to go out and get lots and lots of different coaching, we have the ability to provide that in one shot over a good period of time that would allow them to invest and see the growth as they're going through the program. So it all came together, I think, quite quickly once we all joined the dots with each other. Is that fair, Tony and Suze? Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think that our first conversation revolved around the holistic wellbeing industry to start with, and how when you train to do any kind of holistic therapy, you're trained how to do the therapy, but you're not trained how to run a business. And that was that was the light bulb moment from my perspective as to how we can actually then bring something to that industry as a starting point, and then obviously grow from there to other industries. It doesn't have to be exclusive, but definitely that's a challenge for people in the industry that I work in.
I think for me it's the same in any industry. I think Sue's right, because we understand our own industries, what we do, and we know that's a problem in there. But I realized that quite early on, that I know how good I am at what I do, but I was terrible about trying to get the business off the ground. And I was working so many hours to try and do it because I had nobody to turn to. There was nobody I could find who could tell me. I found some gurus, so-called gurus online, want to charge you a fortune. We're making these promises, but they didn't feel right. There was something that didn't feel right with it. Then I met Suze last year, and at the Revitalise in November, we talked about doing this, but both of us were really busy at the beginning of the year. And then I met Steve, and then out the blue, when me and Suze already said we'd meet up May, June to discuss this after a retreat Suze was doing, Steve came into it. And he picked out the two of us, which was quite weird then, is a remote fate, that he picked the two people who were actually looking to work together at this time. And Steve came on, and what made it perfect was we had the mind and the sort of soul side or spiritual side together to work. The bit we lacked was the bit of the business side, and that's where Steve came in. So it made like an eternal triangle. I've mind a bit that we've put into it is rather than Steve was right, rather than mind, body, and sort of spirit or soul side, we've got the mind, business, and then your spirit and soul side. So it just combines everything that new business owners need to allow them to take forward, so they don't go through a problem that we've all went through at the beginning.
Yeah, I think the one thing I would just add to that, and I think Tony, you've picked on this a couple of times in conversations we've had, is that there are lots of courses out there that will give you the theory behind what you're supposed to do, and then they just leave you with it. And what we're doing is we don't do that. We do talk about theory, but what we do is give you practical application, and through the program, we actually help you to implement. Because the only way you get your business to do something different is to go and actually do something. So there's lots of practical implementation.
Do you know what's really interesting though as well? The ways of all sort of the collaborative mind, the ways of all came together and then broken it up into 3 bite-sized chunks, where it's, you're saying before, it's not just giving the theory, it's giving practical, useful advice that you can actually hit the ground running and actually implement into anybody's business individually. But also I think what's extremely important right about now, the people that I've spoken to in the last few weeks, the last few months, is taking time for self-care. It's taking time for them to really realign who they are and what they're doing. They talk about the dynamics and the mechanics of the actual business itself, but they forget about getting themselves in the right place and taking time for them as well, which I think is extremely important. You've all mentioned that briefly. Sorry, Steve.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the thing is that whilst we keep talking about this program has got 3 distinct areas, which it has, they are all completely interlinked.
Yeah,
you know, you can't get a piece of paper between them, because they all, and this is the power of the course, they all do that, and they make you as a business owner be connected with your business, but make sure that when your business is successful, you can enjoy it.
Yeah,
you don't have to work 24 hours a day. You don't have to get yourself stressed out. That, you know, looking after yourself and your business and having that connection makes it very powerful.
correct. 100%, Steve. Thanks for sharing that, everybody, as well. And I think it's always nice to know where something's came from. It hasn't just arrived and gone da-na, and it's here. It's sorry, Suze, but it's sort of like bring the collective minds together, and you've really took your time. And I've seen what you've been doing in developing and putting together the coaching program itself. So let's take a little look now into the 3 separate key areas of each of the program, if that's okay with you all this morning. The first part we wanted to discuss is the business growth part, which I think lies with yourself, Steve, and that's from the coach for growth element to it all. Would you mind sharing with everybody maybe an insight into that first part, and then we'll go with the other 2 just after that as well?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So the business growth part starts at the end, which is a different way of looking at it. But in a business, you need to understand where your destination is. So, you know, I call myself the business sat nav, and I do that for a specific reason. That, you know, there are 2 points you need to understand: where you are now and where you want to be. And when you understand those positions quite clearly, you can then start to think about building a route to get from one to the other. So the business growth side of it, first of all, comes about getting real clarity about where your end destination is, and setting some targets about what that destination looks like. And ultimately, the business is there to allow you to live your ideal life. So you need to work out, what do you need the business to give you in order for you to live your ideal life? And then when we've got that point, we can then transpose that into your business plan and go, right, well, we know where you are now and what you're doing, and we now know where you need to get to. And all of a sudden, we've got a gap. The beauty of understanding what that gap is, you can then start doing small things regularly to fill that gap. So the business growth picture, once we built that gap, then looks at how do we get the rhythmic acquisition of new customers? Because generally speaking in business, that's the holy grail of how do I get regular, routine, new and repeat customers? How do I build my lifetime value so that I can move along a path to growth at a pace that suits me in the industry that I'm doing? So it's about how do I understand who my ideal customer is? Because most business will go, anyone could be my customer, but that makes your audience far too big. There's so many other people out there sending messages out to people, trying to get them to buy things, that you've got to try and get a real clarity on who your ideal customer looks like, what they do, where they go, the things that are interesting in them, so that you build what your individual market is. And when you've got your market, you can then work out what's the right message to them. So what's your utterly compelling and differentiating message that puts you in the picture of the people that are your ideal audience? And when you've got those two things, the final bit then is what's the right media to put that message out on? And the world is hooked on social media at the moment, and that might be the right place, but there are lots of other places. So you've got to get your market, your message, and your media sorted out, and understand what your ideal customer looks like. So you can then start to test how to go and find those people with little different campaigns that you measure, check. Some won't work, you change it. So it's all about touch and feel of getting your right message in front of the right people. And then when you've identified all that, the next key thing is how do you nurture those people? Because generally speaking, the vast majority of people who are your ideal customer aren't ready to buy your product right now. Some of them might not even know that they really need your product right now. So you've got to build a follow-up process. So when you get people that show some level of interest, how do you then start sending them just really useful content, things that will help them, things that will put you in their mind's eye? So when they do hit that position of I'm ready to know more or I'm ready to buy, you stand a much better chance of being the person that they turn to have that conversation. So it's just understand your customer, understand the right message and where to put it, find your ideal customer, then nurture them through to the point that they then become a paying client of yours. And that's what the business growth bit does over that 6-month period. It takes you through several different practical steps, and we build an action plan during the program that will then run for 6 months afterwards.
I think that's a great way of looking at it. A lot of people forget about looking at their target audience, actually getting a real an understanding of who they want to speak to, but also educating their clients on who they would like to be introduced to as well. I think that's a real learning curve for many business owners, because they think they can put a product and service out there and they think it's just going to miraculously happen for them straight away. But sometimes it takes time. It's not like an instantaneously opportunity that's created for you straight away as a business or a sale. It might take a month, it might take 3 months, it might take 6, it might even take 12 months.
It will, but if you have your follow-up process built correctly, that you may end up. Most businesses will blame they've got bad leads, or they haven't got enough leads, or they've got bad leads. There's no such thing as a bad lead. It's just not the right time. Mm-hmm. So you may end up having someone that interacts with you today who doesn't buy for 12 months. That's fine, as long as you've got a sensible follow-up process, and we talk about what that follow-up process should be and how do you automate as much of that as possible so you don't have to remember, because my memory's dreadful. It's just about getting them into your funnel, into your sales funnel, and then looking after them so that you plug as many leaks as you can, so you don't have a leaky bucket, so that what goes in at the top flows out to the bottom. But it might take a while to do that. Some go quicker, some go slower, but without the follow-up process, and without knowing your target market and the right person, you're just chucking mud at the wall and hoping some of it sticks.
True.
And some will, but that doesn't give you rhythmic anything. That gives you that sort of flow.
Yeah.
It's all about rhythmic activity. Rhythmic activity always comes before rhythmic acquisition. You just got to do the simple things, the basic things, do them well, and do them consistently.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Steve. I think it really gives us an insight in how that sort of first part at the end of the process, at the beginning of the process, begins with the sort of the business growth arm to it all, as well as part of the coaching program. Going from the business growth side of it, we're then delving into sort of understanding the mindset, getting this mind in the right place and how you focus and keep going forward and keep that positivity driving. And that's down to Tony, I guess, now as well. Tony Gordon from Changing Your Mind Limited. Tony, where does your part play in this, and especially from the mindset perspective in regards to the coaching program itself? It took me a while to get that word out there, but I eventually got it there. So over to you, Tony.
It's funny you mentioned that word there, because perspective is what this is all about. Is actually looking at it. What Steve's mentioned there is looking at your destination and fill the gap. From a mindset point of view, you have to understand the destination, because otherwise you don't know the steps it takes to get there. What you're doing is putting in the dark all the time to try and go towards something. Rather than calling it goals, what people normally do, they say, we've got goals, we're aiming to get somewhere. It's the outcome that's the most important thing. The goals are only stepping stones towards that. And Steve's alluded there, each of his steps, his program is a goal that you're getting to build on to get you towards your destination. From the mindset point of view, we want to look forward initially. So it's understanding what a growth mindset actually means. Explaining people the difference between here, they've heard the terms fixed and growth mindset. A lot of people don't understand what the difference is. So we go through that and look at where to get to the destination. The most important thing is understanding why you want to get there. What is it once you get to that destination that you know you're actually there? Is it because the businesses have started working, it's profitable running? For most people, no. That's, again, it's only a goal towards something. Whatever the reason you set that business up, whether it's for family, whether it's for freedom, financial freedom, time freedom, whatever it is, that's what we want to get in the mind. And visualize that. Get a little picture in their mind to see what that's going to look like. How's it going to feel? What will people say when they're at that point? What are they going to tell themselves and go, I've made it. That's when I'm actually here. So each of the steps of the mind builds on that. And it fits in with everything that Steve's talking about, because along the way, there's a lot of information when it comes to building growth and building from the business point of view. And a lot of people then will hit different points. It may be imposter syndrome, when they feel I'm not good enough to do this, or I can't take it in. It's information overload, when they've got all this information in their mind and they just can't seem to calm their mind about it. Or what they find that they're getting is harder for a lot of people is compare monster, we call it. They start comparing themselves to other people. They start comparing themselves to other business owners. But the only person they need to compare themselves to is what they were like the day before. Because what the next day, as long as you're always taking that one step forward, that one step means you're always moving in the right direction towards where you want to get. But a step doesn't even have to be doing something physical. A step is just getting your mind in the right place. So probably it's also your spiritual side. It's getting the mind and body and that together, so that when you take each step, it can be, I've got the idea what I'm going to do tomorrow. That's a step forward, because you never had that the day before. So it's making sure that people actually understand and to celebrate each of these little steps as we get them moving forward. Because that's something we forget to do. We celebrate big things in life, like birthdays, like weddings, things. But each of the steps that Steve's talking about, these are achievements for you. Celebrate it as you go along. That's what the mind will allow you to do. And as you're doing that, you start to build the confidence and the self-esteem that you realize, I can achieve this. And you can start seeing that visualization we first did. I'm getting closer and closer to that. They know what they're going to get to. So each of my steps will take them there. Getting rid of those limiting beliefs, understanding them, what limiting beliefs actually are. People talk about getting rid of them. There's no point in just alleviating them if you don't understand why they came in the first place. What triggers those limiting beliefs? So we'll look at that to get the first step on it. Then we start looking, how do you overcome them? How do you turn your limiting beliefs into empowering beliefs? So that 1 minute you're actually thinking, I can't do this, I'm not good enough. The next minute is, I can do that once I learn from Steve what the next step is. Once I learn from Suze how to calm my mind when I'm doing that. Each of those builds together to take those steps. And that way they can start seeing these limiting beliefs are actually only in their mind. They're nowhere else. And the self-talk, the negative self-talk that we get through all these processes, the only person that's saying that is you, is themselves. When you ask most people, they always say, oh, well, everybody thinks that way. Well, who's everybody? Well, most people. Who's most people? When they keep going back to the actual, okay, it's me. Yeah, you're stopping yourself. The only limitations that these people have are the limitations they put on themselves. That's where the mindset comes in to do. Take away those limitations. But then sometimes they understand there will be certain limitations we all have. Every one of us has them. It's not a bad thing. It's like you mentioned stress. Stress is actually good. If it's looked in the right way, stress can be a great thing. Because if I ask somebody a simple little step, if you actually think about how do you feel when you're stressed, where in your body do you feel that? Now think when you're excited, where in your body do you feel that? The only difference is what your mind tells you. 1 minute you're excited, the next minute I'm stressed. It's the same thing. It's the same emotion. It's just the name we give it. So by getting that and having to look at it in the right way means every time the business part comes in, they're ready for it. So each of the steps that we do for the mind is getting them ready for the next step that Steve takes them onto. And that place handily passes over then to you to be the next person who brings all that into the self-care side.
Do you know what's really important as well? Again, it's another point you've just mentioned there before I move on to Suze as well, is that people doing self-comparison with other people. And I think that's why do people actually compare themselves to other people in their industries where it's them as the individual? Would you agree with that, Tony? There's many people that still do that.
It's one, I call it compare monster. I get told that name years ago, and it's what it's like. It's like a big monster on their back all the time. They'll say, but this person's doing that, that person's doing that. But the one, people always look for the USP, your unique selling point. It's you. Doesn't matter about all these other things you can do. Your unique selling point is you as an individual. That other person can do it their way. But the simple way you have to look at it, not everybody that resonates with them is going to resonate with you. You'll find the right people when Steve's put it, when you find the right place to market your business, the right people will come to you. When you have the right price point for your business, the right people will come to you. When you understand to explain to people exactly what your business is, that sounds quite a confusing thing for people, but that's such an important part. Can I explain to other people? And one thing, Lee, you always say, and I use it all the time in business now because you can't get this, it's not patented, is who knows what you know, right? That's what you need as a business owner. That's what you need to do with this whole course is going to teach you. This program will teach you to understand that you need to let everybody else know what you know, because that's how they will promote you, and that's how your right people will come to you. That's because you are an individual. You are unique.
100%, Tony. Thanks for sharing that as well. It's great to hear about where that mindset element fits in, and it's a great trinity, this as well, the way it's working, this coaching program as well. So we've done the mindset, we've gone at the business growth. We're now going into the well-being. We've talked about this quite a lot as well, and thank you, Tony and Steve, so far, is looking at the self-care, is looking at the individual themselves, and I believe that's where you'll play a major part in this as well, Suze, from the Elevate 360 team. So we'd like to share a bit about the well-being part of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that the analogy that Steve used at the beginning there, but you can't get a piece of paper between all the different aspects of this program, because there's so much of what Tony does is going to be backed up by what I do, but from a slightly different kind of viewpoint. And also what Steve said at the beginning there about how we're actually looking at the destination. If you can't see what that destination is, if you can't see and visualize that and imagine your life being lived in that way, then there's no point in you doing this. I find that a lot of people who set up their own business or become an entrepreneur, it takes a really special person to be that in their lives. And how do they show up as that? How do they take all of the knowledge that we can offer to them and then truly take it from the mind that Tony's going to help us with, and then actually embody that and show up as their fully passionate self? Someone who wants to run their own business doesn't just do it on a whim. It becomes a passion for them. So my role is going to be to bring out that passion, to really help them align with that, and to truly know that they're doing this for the right reasons. And that then brings in that whole self-care thing, because you can't work on your business 24/7. You have to have that balance. Work-life balance is very, very important. And that's one of the things I'm going to be supporting people with, how they do that, how they get themselves out of overwhelm when there's like too much going on. Once we start running this program and once people are actually doing the work, they're still going to be doing the work for the 6 months, but they're also going to be working. We speak about this in our networking development sessions, working on your business and in your business. So that can become really overwhelming. So I'll be teaching skills, how to manage that, how to stay on top of that, how to have healthy boundaries between your work and your life so that you are actually, staying healthy in your mindset and your well-being as well. I'm also going to be helping them with the sort of motivational side of things, because, we can't stay motivated all the time. Tony mentioned there about the difference between stress or anxiety, stress, whichever one you want to call it, and excitement. It's exactly the same feeling in the body, So staying motivated when you're feeling overwhelmed can be too much for some people. So I'll be teaching skills for that, meditation, visualization, breathing exercises, all of those things, but also bringing up what Tony mentioned about the whole of the limiting beliefs, is that I'm going to help people to go beyond those as well, using the techniques that I have in place to help them to identify them, let them go, and to change those beliefs into something much more positive. So between the two of us, there's a lot of similarities, but bringing it from a different angle as well. I'm going to help them to nurture those lists of people that they gather together, how they nurture those lists, how they bring that out in themselves, and help them to really, truly believe in themselves, really know that this passion that they've got, they can take this forward and create this life that they want for themselves through all the things that I'm going to be doing. And also, you know, Lee, I always talk about manifestation. That's a big word for me. And I think that what we need to be able to get to, or get the people that are coming onto this program, is to get to the point where they have enough self-belief to know that they are able to manifest the clients or the customers in, and to know that that can flow. And, you know, that can maybe be from the spiritual or the holistic side of things, but equally it doesn't just happen because of that. You have to put the work in, and that's where the business side comes in, as to how you actually do that, how you actually bring all those elements together to make sure that people are you know, building a business that is semi-automated, so that everything runs, like I said, we spoke about, you know, business, mind, and holistically as well. Yeah, I think that's probably the side of things from me that hopefully haven't spoken too long.
No, not at all. I think you've mentioned the word which is usually hard for me to say as well, as manifestation, right? But manifestation and visualization, not visibility. Visualization, and focusing on what you want to achieve and how you want to make it happen. And it's something I've embraced a lot over the last few weeks, and just manifest in the mornings, focus on what I want to achieve in the day, what I want to achieve in the week, what I achieve in the month, what I achieve in the year, and how I've sort of changed that direction and looked to it. And that came from really all three of you in some way, shape or form. You've all had an impact with me over the past sort of 6 plus 12 months with you being involved, etc. as well. And I think the manifestation is really important.
Can I just pick on one thing? I think this is really important, because both Tony and Suze have talked about people comparing themselves to others. And business owners do that quite a lot. And business owners tend to copy other people that are in their industry. And I just think it's worth noting that if you look at the success of businesses, there's a money pyramid. With the 1% at the top being rich, the next 4% being really prosperous, 15% making really good living. But there is a 60% block and a 20% block. So 80% of businesses are either struggling financially or are actually broke and don't know it yet. So if you try and compare and copy the people that are in your industry, you're probably going to do it wrong. So you've got to learn from the best. And you've got to do the things that the best people do. And that, again, is one of the things this program will do, is take the process of what the really successful people in life do. But if you copy the average, don't expect to get anything more than average.
Love that. I love that mentality, that sort of look to it as well, and that sort of angle to it. Most importantly, I think that's really important that we share that. That's in there. Thank you to all of you for sharing those the three key areas really of the Elevate 360 program that you. It's exciting times for all of you to be doing, and it's exciting times for many people who are involved in this as well. The question is now, for people who are watching and going to be rewatching this back or listening through either on the YouTube or just watching on LinkedIn, how can they get involved? Is there an intake or a certain time of the year? Is it a certain period where they've got to really get involved? What's the next steps if someone really wanted to get involved into this right now?
So we always do a discovery call with everybody, because what we have to do is make sure that they're right for the program and the program is right for them. So if they go to my website, which is coachforgrowth.info, they can connect on there and put a discovery call into my diary. They can obviously reach out on LinkedIn and other things, Tony and Suze as well. But we like to take people through that discovery call so we can explain the program in a little bit more detail, what happens, how it happens, what the practicalities of it are. The next intake starts on the 15th of July. So there are some spaces left on the next intake. So if anybody's out there that would like to know more, please get in touch with us. And we can explain how that program operates. It's over 6 months. There is something that you do every week. So there are group sessions with each of the three people that are on this call. There's a fourth group session where all three of us come together and we do a Q&A session. And then there are one-to-one sessions about the action plan with your business every month. So there is a lot of support and a lot of help but there's also a lot of effort required from you to make it work and apply it in your business. But basically, reach out to any three of us, and we can talk through those next steps. The detail of the actual program is on my website, but if anybody just reaches out, we can send that over to them.
So,
just going to say, Lee, just that what Steve has said there, it's so important for people to understand as well, is this is not just about each of these sessions. You're going to have a session each week over the month. You're going to work in between those sessions. This is a bit that's different. Steve alluded to earlier. This is the practicality bit, and also accountability. You're accountable to each of us, but also to yourself and the people in your group. Because when you're in the cohort there, the thing great about it is you've got a group of people then to help you along the line, along the way as well. They're all going through the same thing. It's so important to understand that you're not alone on this. Although we only do it once each week, you'll have one. You've also got one-to-one session with Steve throughout the month as well. So you've got all this coming up, that you've got this extra work bit to come in. But for people that might think it's another one of these ones, you just got these sessions and that's it. It's not. We will give you tasks to do each week, and it follows on from what each of our sessions are. And at the end of the month, as Steve says, you've got the Q&A. That gives you the opportunity before you start the next month, just to clear up everything you've done that month and make sure that you're on the right page before you start moving forward. So there is a lot of work, but there's also a lot of support that's there as well from each of us. We're all available for that.
Yeah, and I agree. And on session one, which I run, I help them to structure their working week to make sure they have enough time to do those things, because how you do it is really important.
Well, time is the biggest commodity in any business, and people forget about that so much. Time is really the biggest commodity. I've actually just dropped into the YouTube chat there as well. I've put coachforgrowth.info, and then I've just put a little bit of structure about the intake day, which is the 15th of July. I've dropped that into the feed. And then what I'll also do for everybody who's watching and listening to this or rewatching it back on LinkedIn Live is I'll drop in Tony, Suze, and Steve's LinkedIn profile connections into the comment boxes below this video that you'll see as well, so you can engage with the team and have a chat with them separately, and then organize your discovery call if you want to take those wonderful next steps of actually getting involved and making an impact and actioning to take your business to the next level as well. For me, really, it's just to say a massive thank you to all three of you for joining me this morning. Really appreciate you giving us a bit of an insight into how the Elevate 360 program is going to be working.
No, pleasure, Lee. Thank you.
Thanks for having us along.
That's what I was just going to say. I told me, Suze, think alike, don't we? Thank you, Lee. We went to say the exact same second as well there. Something there. But thank you for having us on there. But also, for everybody who's on there, this really is an opportunity you don't want to wait for. See, I wish I had this when I started. This is why we've done this. That's why I know you'll get the right support, because you get three people who don't want you going through what we all went through at the beginning.
Yeah. Absolutely. I've put a lot of effort and have been invested in my business with coaching for myself. And I know this works. I absolutely know by having that funnel in place and having the whole three elements in place that it does absolutely work. And that's why I'm so passionate about being part of this team. I'm really excited to see where this goes.
Do you know, the last thing I just put on there, it can be a lonely place running a business on your own. And what people forget about this so much is the resources and support structure that's around you. That's really important to any infrastructure, to any business that's starting off. We all have a great idea to begin with. We go out the gates really quick and try and put it all together. But then we forget about the actual key people you got to bring around you at the time to make your business even stronger. And that's usually the advice, support, and accountability that you need within your business itself. And that's down to the right people at the right place at the right time, put them into that position for you as well. And I think all three of you, as a trinity, like to call it, the trinity, extremely well done to all three of you as well. Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who's been watching and listening to this special edition of Revitalise Meets, the business-focused podcast. Stay tuned. There's many more podcasts and interviews coming up over the next few weeks. We've got a few Revitalise Meets interviews happening in the next 2 weeks and potentially one next week. So watch this space. Make sure you subscribe to the channel on YouTube, which is the Revitalise Network and YouTube channel. And also keep a lookout on LinkedIn on the Revitalise Networking company page that's on there as well. If you have any questions, by all means, please reach out to my good self. But don't forget, if you're interested in taking your business to the next level, connect with the team at Elevate 360 with Steve Lees, Tony Gordon, and Suzanne McDonald. Thanks very much for watching and listening, everybody. And as always, from us all, happy connecting, take care, and have a great rest of the week and potentially the weekend when it arrives. Take care, everybody. See you all soon. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.